Okay, so I'm going to share one thing here. My most recent struggles are around what I've been doing in life, sometimes feeling inadequate despite being very competent. Sometimes feel like I'm not following my best path. Conflicts with knowing with what I'm doing is very good work. Um, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of us feel that. I just started reading this comment. The person who wrote it, do you want to add anything to that, or do you want me to just comment on it without you talking? Totally up to you.
Well, I can say a little bit. Can you
Great.
hear me all right?
Yes. Is
Yeah,
it
okay.
Tomas or Thomas?
Well, I'm Tomas at my men's weekend, but
Thomas.
everywhere else I'm Tom, so Tom is fine.
Tom. Okay.
But yeah, I really appreciate your what you're sharing here because sometimes we forget things like we're all just frozen light. Really, is we're all a manifestation of what light was, and it became us, and we go back to being light, and those are all good perspectives. But sometimes I just get down in the dark of feeling like I'm not being guided when I think we all would like to feel we're being guided, and somewhere inside we know we are, but some other part of us feels not guided, and that's kind of where my struggle is at this point.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a really, really important thing that I feel that sometimes myself, and I'm sure others here do as well. And I appreciate your sharing, and I honor your courage for doing that. So I'll share my perspective, take it for what you will. We come into each life with no memory of who we've been in past lives. It's a divine law of amnesia. Our memories are wiped. And again, what I believe and what I've learned is that we form agreements with our spirit guides. And these, the guides that are on the other side, they're kind of nudging us along as to how much we want them to be involved in our lives. And we also set up circumstances in our lives to learn from. One thing I recently learned about, because I do life between life regressions as a hypnotherapist, and one thing I was studying in my Michael Newton books, which, by the way, everybody should read Michael Newton if you haven't. I highly recommend Journey of Souls, is that we bring a certain percentage of our energy into each body, and we leave a certain percentage of energy with us in the spirit realm. So, our higher selves in the spirit realm. And some of us may have brought in like only 30% of our energy into our human bodies. Well, that's not a lot, right? And so before, which could mean that it's a little bit more challenging for us to move through circumstances in life. I think, it was coming to me as I just said that for you. And I feel this is true for myself sometimes too, is maybe we set it out that way. Like we said, I want to, maybe one of your soul lessons or the life lessons you wanted to learn was to really trust in your intuition, or to, develop a connection with guides or with spirit, whatever that means. And so how do we learn something? We experience the opposite. So we might go through a time where we feel, and this is true for almost all of us as children, or, not all of us, children are pretty intuitive, but then when you get to be older, we get it programmed out of us through public school and all that. And for me, certainly there was a time where I wasn't feel like I was guided by anything or connected to anything, but that's how then we go through the process of seeking, and almost because we go through a dark time. And for me personally, I went through a dark time, two different dark times. We all have. And it was one of those dark times when I had this incredible experience. Well, one of them was with Jesus, which I saw like a figure in the sand that was Jesus. Anyway, and I won't go into that now, but I saw like the figure on the sand. Another was just with light, just like beautiful streams of light. And then I was like, oh, there is something there. I believe, and now I'm getting to trust, but it comes in quickly and it goes out. So I think And that's part of the school. That's part of the earth school, is that we're disconnected. When we choose to incarnate here, this is one of the hardest planets to be on because we're so separated. And that can cause a lot of pain and suffering because we just long to be one back with that source, with God, with our soul group, with our spirit realm, with our home. But that's also part of how we learn, So I think the way I teach, when I teach people about developing intuition, is often, and I've done this myself, is just remembering that it's fuzzy, that it's like tuning into an AM radio station. It's spirit speaks through other people. So often we get messages, 3 times you get told something, it's because you're getting a message. We, signs on that we literally see numbers or things that we think are speaking to us. It's because they are. And that's really how intuition develops, is these really like little mundane ways that we don't notice until we do, and it's through our feelings, our heart, like, oh, I feel like that was meant for me. And then the more it happens and the more it happens and the more it happens, we start to be like, maybe I'm just going to start trusting that it really was meant for me. And so that's probably, that's part of the process. How does all that feel to you? Is that?
Oh, no, that's a good perspective. I appreciate hearing that. It's always good to get other perspectives. I'm somewhat isolated in my homestead and freedom. So hearing your perspective are things that I hadn't thought of myself that may very well prove to be useful in the very near future. So yeah, I appreciate hearing your perspective, and that was helpful. Thank you.